Hi, I'm Alix Paultre, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Talking Timepieces, and today we're going to talk about tuning fork watches. Before I get started though, I'd like to do a watch check. I'm currently, and actually it has a little bit of bearing in what we're doing today. I'm wearing a borrowed Bulova Moon Pilot. This is a very beautiful piece. I own a Speedmaster, so I'm not sure if I want to add this to my collection, but it's such a nice piece, and I saw my friend owned one, so I asked him if I could borrow it, and here it is. It commemorates the only private watch worn on the moon. It was actually the commander of Apollo 15. He was given a prototype moon watch by Bulova, and his Speedmaster had a malfunction, so he wound up wearing his Moon Pilot on the moon. Only private watch ever worn on the moon. In fact, all the other watches were owned by NASA, just like these spacesuits. They had to give them back when they were done. So the reason that I say it's connected to our show is we are talking about tuning fork watches, and today I have two very nice ones. I've got a Bulova Accutron. Bulova were the originators of the technology, and you can see the tuning fork. The orange coils at the top are the copper electromagnets, the metal sleeves around them, the heads of the tuning fork, and you can see the tuning fork go up underneath the bridge, underneath the face of the watch there, secured in the middle. And actually, if you really look closely, you can see the various mechanisms. There's a little bar across the top to help keep the tuning fork in place. Let's get some sunlight on that maybe. And the interesting thing about this watch is that the electronics were there just to get the tuning fork in motion. The natural resonance of the tuning fork provided the 360 hertz drive that motivated the watch. I say drove the watch because it wasn't a time reference like a quartz crystal in a quartz watch. This tuning fork actually drove the mechanism. A very fine hairspring with a little teeny ruby on the end drove a very fine-toothed gear that drove the watch. So you could call it a hybrid movement because it was an electromechanical movement, because the tuning fork actually drove the watch mechanism. The electromagnets were there, as I said, just to get the tuning fork in motion. One of the interesting things, oh, by the way, I am going to talk about the Speedsonic there, but we'll get to it. One of the nice things about it, it has a rear crown. You actually have to flip out the crown. You see, it's a rear crown that you just pop out. See, it folds down, and there's the battery door, of course. They went with a smooth case design to also highlight the fact that it was so accurate, and you don't have to wind it, and it's not even automatic. You just keep the battery in it up, and it runs. So they went with a beautiful, classic, clean case design. It's not running right now because it needs a new battery, and I figured I'm not wearing it right now, so I'll let it rest a little bit. It's a much simpler mechanism than a mechanical automatic escapement watch, so I'm not that worried about lubricant issues and the like from sitting. It's more of I don't want excessive wear, especially on that incredibly delicate tuning fork vibration transfer mechanical mechanism. Now, this watch came out in 1960, but the core technology was actually developed far earlier. Some say early 50s, and the American government, because accurate timekeeping is a defense level technology, withheld the commercial release of the product until they had their fill and got their dibs on all of the application technology that could be generated from this system. In fact, a lot of the hoo-ha is made about the watches worn on the moon, but the Accutron tuning fork movement was the movement used in all of the Apollo avionics and in quite a few Mil Aero systems, and there are Accutron movements on the science packages on the moon, to this day still functioning and delivering near perfect time. The Accutron is actually still a competitive watch accuracy-wise and more accurate than anything with a mechanical movement, because 360 beats a second is even better than 10 beats a second, a high beat mechanical, obviously. The only thing that can beat the tuning fork movement in oscillating speed is a quartz crystal. Now, having said all of that, and this was made until 1977, which shows the staying power of this beautiful design. Now, the Speedsonic, it's a beautiful piece, and the reason that they call it the Speedsonic is that it has the tuning fork movement in it. Imitation is not the sincerest form of flattery. Licensing is, because licensing is imitation that you pay people money for. And the Speedsonic, it's a little loose on the bottom because I actually disconnected the bracelet so I could take the back off so I could show you. So I'm holding the bottom of the bracelet on the watch. But you see, it's got a very, very funky neo-modernist 70s look to it, which I think really fits the watch. Sharp-eyed observers will notice that last episode, when I promised to do a Speedsonic episode, I was showing a different model, but I traded that model for this model from another collector because I wanted that super possible future retro design with the epaulette jumpsuits and everything. This wouldn't look out of place on any old school science fiction television show. Sigourney Weaver could have worn this fighting aliens. Now, one of the things about this watch, beyond being called the Lobster because of its bracelet, obviously it's more because of the fact that this is a Omega Speedsonic. It uses the licensed technology, and the movement obviously doesn't have a chrono as you saw on the Accutron. It's not a chronograph or a day-date complication. So this one actually has a chronograph and day-date module sandwiched into the case. That's not why the case is so tall. The other Speedsonics aren't this bulky, this more to the design of the watch, but you can see that the pushers don't line up with the crown, showing that the watch is two mechanisms within one. Interestingly enough, the Omega Speedmaster Automatic is also a binary mechanism with a chronograph movement layered on top of a clock movement. In this case, they had to do it by necessity because the tuning fork did not have the day date or the chronograph complication. Now, this, let's show you the Lobster bracelet. It's obvious why they call it the Lobster. It has a very lobster look, and it actually has a very lobster flexibility. The interesting thing about the Lobster is, if you notice, it also tilts to the left and right, and that's because it's got a mesh, a steel mesh, where the links are connected to. The first four links are not connected to each other. They're actually connected to this steel mesh that runs through the core. So other reviewers have commented on how nice the bracelet feels on the wrist, even though it's got this clunky appearance, and that's because of the metal mesh that forms the head of the watch. These links are actually scales, which makes it closer to the lobster analogy. Now, the interesting thing also is it's obviously designed to only use this or other custom bracelets. You could put, and I've seen people do, a NATO strap on here, but the lugs are obviously not designed to be visible. They're very, they almost look like the posts a dentist used to mount teeth on. So you could almost say that, yes, these are mounting posts. They're not really watch lugs. Well, as I said, you could get away with wearing a NATO strap or something on it, but as long as this strap's intact, I'm not separating the two. Now, let's open up the Speedsonic and let's take a look inside. I mean, we have the photograph here, but I'll tilt this around in front of the camera, get a nice, see if we can get a nice close-up of some of the interior while we're talking about this. Now, The Speedsonic actually operated at 300 hertz, not 360 hertz, like the Accutron movement, but I think they did that to reduce some of the potential wear on the system, because going from 360 to 300 is actually a significant reduction in vibrational frequency. So there we go. I popped off the back, and you can see the tuning fork heads. You can see the base of the tuning fork and the battery. And that module actually, as I said, appeared in other tuning fork watches under license, and this one was made a chronograph by adding a module. So let's let's look at the two together. So you can see the magnetic coils in both. You can see the heritage of both watches together. So you know, it's very easy to see that they are both based on the same movement, which shows the beauty and shows the classic and elegant solution for one of the issues of timekeeping: how to regulate time, how to slice it up into pieces, and how to control the measurement of those pieces of time you create. So that was our Talking Timepieces episode. Please subscribe. If you have any ideas for stories, send me a note and see if we can incorporate them into the show. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. My name's Alix Paultre, and you all have a great day.